Okay, wow, every time it's a struggle. Um, Let me just, there I am. Okay, today I'm absolutely alone. So I was ready to record this offline because I was struggling with the password as usual. Anyway, here we are. Usual disclaimer, excuse me. I did all my prayers offline in order to save time. I have a second disclaimer this month, and that's that I haven't been feeling very well in the past 2 weeks. I've had some pain and discomfort in my bowel that would keep me awake. So this is the first day that that I slept enough time and that I'm like functional. So I'll try my best. Now, on account of that, I haven't quite been able to prepare this lesson as I would have liked. So uh, we're all counting on, well, not much the power of my prayer, because what power do I have, but the grace that those prayers invoke, hopefully. So today we're gonna learn everything about Python, and if you were looking to learn something about computer, that's not that Python. It's the snake, the Python. This is a series on the seventh and eighth. This is, in fact, the first verse of chapter 8 in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where 24 gurus are described by an Avadhuta to Maharaj Yadu in a way to explain how Guru is everywhere. There's many more. There's infinite gurus because because Guru is everywhere. The teaching is everywhere. The mercy is everywhere, and devotion to God is everywhere, which is what the Guru represents, and because God is everywhere. So um, now today we're talking about the Python, and I tried to do some, fancy or funny research, like I did with the pigeon, but I couldn't find much. Pythons, turns out, they're quite boring. They're very inert. People think that snakes are, man, we've got such experiences here with snakes, maybe once in a while, not too many, maybe once a year, but because of cartoons or movies, people think that snakes are like coming, waiting to come at you. And there is one type of snake here called fer de lance, which means, well, it's French. Fer de lance means spearhead because of the shape of its head. And they're particularly vicious. They'll just attack you because they're angry. But most of them are really, really inert and almost oblivious to what's around them. And so not much to say about the Python itself. What I am going to do, except I didn't prepare it because of the reasons I told you, is just to go ahead and read the verses, and then we can see how a Python can be our guru with its behavior and what is it trying to teach us. So, like I said, Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, first verse of chapter 8. The saintly Brahmana said, "O king, the embodied living entity automatically experiences, excuse me, unhappiness in heaven or hell. Similarly, happiness will also be experienced, even without one seeking it. Therefore, a person of intelligent discrimination does not make any endeavor to obtain such material happiness." Text 2. Following the example of the python, one should give up material endeavors and accept for one's maintenance food that comes of its own accord, whether such food be delicious or tasteless, ample or meager. 3. If at any time food does not come, then a saintly person should fast for many days without making endeavor. He should understand that by God's arrangement he must fast. Thus, following the example of the python, he should remain peaceful and patient. The next one about the python too. 4. A saintly person should remain peaceful and materially inactive, maintaining his body without much endeavor. Even though possessed of full sensual, mental, and physical strength, a saintly person should not become active for material gain, but rather should always remain alert to his actual self-interest. Now, first thing that strikes me is how it says a saintly person. Well, anybody's called to do that, and to the extent that they do it, then they're saintly persons. They're on the path of paramahansahood, because we're all called to become uttamadhikaris and paramahansas. That's why we're treading the paths of the paramahansa. So it's not that this is only for saintly people. Like I usually say, spiritual life is life. There's no other life. Everything else is just a sham, a scam. So whatever is said about transcendence and spiritual or saintly in this case is just the way to be. So let's see if I can eviscerate all this and elaborate on it with the little energies I have, and knowledge and qualification. Now, one thing about the python per se, the idea is the same. It's something that people, okay, the first idea I had, the first thought I had when I saw this example of the python and what it represents, I was like, why a python? Why not a mussel or any sea mollusk? The idea is that a python doesn't hunt. They just stay there, and if a prey comes their way, they just eat it. Otherwise, they just fast. Apparently. But any sea mussel, any sea mollusk, they really just open their, what are they called, valves, and they filter the seawater. Whatever nutrients come in their mouths, apparatus, is what they eat. They definitely don't move around. Plants are just as passive. So, but anyway, maybe there is some aspect I'm missing, but that's the idea of the python. Just if nothing comes my way, I'll just fast. And also, India is surprisingly, because it's got a huge coastline. If you think about it, it's not a very maritime culture. We know that the Vedic civilization, I don't know about Vedic, but at least Indian, extended all the way to Thailand, and there were sailors and traders going all the way into Egypt, to the end of the Red Sea, and trading in the with the Roman Empire, and I'm sure they were fishing, but you can see that all the examples in our scriptures and in the Bhagavatam, they're all very agrarian, very cow-based, more than fish-based. So I guess an Indian is much more, compared to the land mass of India, even if the coastline is huge, Indians are probably more familiar with pythons just sitting in the tall grass. Because even if they were to fish sea mollusks and eat them, they don't necessarily know that when they're in the water, they eat by filtering the seawater. So I guess the python is the choice of a passive animal. And like I said, the teaching all around, all throughout, is the same, that Sri Guru is in your face. it's like in front of you, like the sun. The point I always make, like the sun, like the moon, like the earth. You cannot avoid it if you know how to see it. Sometimes we pray a lot for mercy, but the real mercy is the capacity to see the mercy, because you could be flooded by mercy but be totally blind and deaf to it. So that is the real act of mercy, when you're given or when you develop the eyes to see, my God, there's mercy all around. um, the Python is passive. So that's pretty much the teaching I get from, um, I mean, the tone of the Bhagavatam is the usual dry, uh, staunch tone that we've seen in all these verses, like, or control the senses and you just don't desire, don't this and that. It's like, Arr. And again, like I think I ended last time, it's a message of love. It's a message of hope, not of restraint. It reminds me many times of Juan, who, if you know Madhuvan, if you have been to Madhuvan, you know who Juan is. He was born in this land when it was a little village where, where we have our batteries. That was his aunt's house. And then they all moved downhill because this place is intense. It's remote, and it's it's intense to live in. So he knew this land, and when we acquired it, he kind of made a deal with us, left the police force to work with us as a, well, in English you say peon, which sounds like derogatory or discriminatory. Once they said that in a YouTube comment, he was like, a peon? Who do you think you are? Peon. Peon is farm hands. It's like a handyman in the farm, and that's exactly what Juan was doing. So we tried to introduce to him the concept of organic gardening and agriculture, because as much as he was in his 50s, and his father also always worked the land, Costa Rica is heavily influenced by what they call the green revolution and the advent of pesticides and herbicides. And Costa Rica is the country that uses the most pesticides in the world compared to the size of the country. I mean, clearly China and the US must be using millions of gallons, but Costa Rica proportionately uses the most, because 5% of the biodiversity of the whole planet is here. So they're making sure they destroy all of it with their poor agricultural choices. Anyway, here we came with our Western American consumeristic mentality and different knowledge. And we tried to tell them that we don't want to spray the pastures, we don't want to spray the rice field, trying to keep it natural. And in more than one occasion, he would come and say, oh, such and such plague is decimating the rice field, and but you guys don't want to use anything. Many times I was like, it's not that we don't want to use anything. We don't want to use chemical pesticides. Now, we're always so understaffed and unorganized that we, for all intents and purposes, we weren't using anything, because, to make compost tea and all those foliar sprays and stuff and techniques, the truth is that we're not agriculturists. How do you say agriculturalists? Whatever. We're not farmers. We just transplanted in here and improvised everything. Plumbers, farmers, and all sort of things. But anyway, that is the point. Another example that my Guru Deva Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami is fond of quoting is that of one of his disciples who once went home and opened the fridge. Two examples. I don't know. I still cannot remember if it's the same disciple in two occasions or two different people. But one of them went home, opened the fridge, and closed it right away because there was nothing to eat, because he's a vegetarian, and the fridge was full of meat. And the father said, you're not eating anything? And he said, there was nothing to eat. The father was like, the fridge is packed. And then in another occasion, or another disciple, Went home, opened the fridge, started to make a very lush sandwich with mustard, avocado, cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, and whatnot, sprouts. And the father said, "Aren't you going to put anything in it? Because, until you put the cold cuts, until you put the meat, you may as well be eating nothing." So it goes to show how reality is what you make of it. Reality, they say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. The whole world is in the eye. Not to veer off again to quantum physics, but why not? Actually, let's do it because it's very helpful. You all know about this example that not example experiment that was done in the 1800s. Believe it or not, I don't know how they could possibly observe an electron in the 1800s, late 1800s. But if you've been following, or if you're interested in quantum physics, you all know that they ran this experiment, and then the electron was behaving like a particle, so like an electron, like a photon, sometimes, and some other times like a wave of energy. And then they realized that the observer in the experiment, the moment you look at the electron, it freezes into a particle of matter. Just until you look at it, it becomes a wave of potentiality, just pure energy. Could be anything, could be anywhere. So that's pretty much what we do with the world. We apply our consciousness that may be tinged by many things. You may have heard about levels of consciousness, and that creates the world. But reality, in a sense, is all one. It's like TV channels. Based on what channel you tune on, whatever, now TV sets don't have a dial, you just press a button, but it corresponds with the frequency. So one moment you be watching a Western movie, and at the same time, a comedy is going on, a documentary is going on, the news are going on, the commercials are going on different channels, different frequencies, and then you may switch from one channel to the other and realize, this is what's going on at the same time. What changed? Your attention changed. The scoping power of you as a unit of consciousness, through the eyes, incidentally, is what made you aware of not of a reality, of a shade of reality, as opposed to another one. So, passiveness. What was I talking about? Juan? So yeah, the message of the Bhagavatam, it sounds like, don't do this, don't do that. And so if you are on an empty stomach in terms of devotional understanding and practice and experience, you're like, well, what am I left to do? Fast until food comes my way? It's totally diametrically opposed to the material worldview and way of approaching it. Because if you're identified with the body, then all of a sudden you perceive a difference between me and God, me and the rest of the world. Me, the body is made of limited beliefs. They get condensed more and more and more until they take this very physical, thick expression that we call physical body. But it's all due to limiting beliefs, really, which could be another description of karma, if you want. A baby is said, I don't remember the studies, but you may know that babies cannot really distinguish shapes, and they cannot make sense of the world when they first come, to life. They say because of the complexity of the brain, a human being is really formed when they're 7, compared to a deer or a giraffe or a horse. At the moment they come out, they're ready to run because otherwise they die. A human baby has got so much to fine tune still, the brain, the body, that they cannot quite make sense of the world. And so that's where the conditioning starts. Say mama, say daddy, whatever, food, this is good, this is bad, the whole barrage of, you know, directions and indications of what the world is, what you are, what you're doing, what you cannot do, what you are, what you're not, and blah, 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 limiting beliefs all throughout that we just take for granted because that's the way it is. It's not any other way. And the Bhagavatam is there at every verse to shatter this again and again and again, to tell you that we are consciousness, the most elusive reality, substance, thing, cannot even describe it, but which is what you are. So you can only find it inside and experience it yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. So, Python is passive. No, yeah, the language of the Bhagavatam. Keep in mind, it says it quite clearly actually, no matter how inexpertly somebody can react and find it like a very harsh language, like, oh my God, I should just not act. Let's look at the keywords again. Saintly Brahmana said, the embodied living entity, so already it's embodied and so covered in conditioning, automatically experiences unhappiness in heaven or hell. So happiness and unhappiness already come by inertia. And person of intelligent discrimination does not make an endeavor to obtain such material happiness. To obtain any more, because I was saying, by the way, let me finish that point. The moment you are a conditioned soul and you're identified with the body is what it is. I have a little body myself, 5'7" and only 2 arms, and whatever the limitation, like, if I'm trying to reach for my water bottle, I might as well die of thirst, unless I move through matter, and that's through time and space, and grab my water bottle, etc., etc. But so the body is finished. The experience of the body is finished, and if you perceive yourself as finished, then your concern is to finished and decaying, because you can see that death is all around you. So your consuming concern in life is how to acquire more of what I think I am, more food, protein that will keep my body in existence and make it grow. Some things give me joy. How can I get more things that give me joy? Things. And all the while slowing down the decay. So limiting beliefs, limited body, finished, casing that we are trapped in. We perceive that, so we try to constantly acquire more and more stuff, and try to not lose stuff. So for all intents and purposes, artha nivritti and artha pravritti and anartha nivritti. I was just thinking about that a few minutes ago in the little time I had to prepare this lesson. I was like, you would have never expected to hear these words in this sense. It's all it means. Artha pravritti means acquisition of what's favorable, of what is of value. Anartha nivritti means relinquishing what is not of value. Obviously, if you're talking about bhakti, it means bhakti anartha nivritti and bhakti artha pravritti. But in and of itself, it's worth knowing a little Sanskrit to really know what is it you're talking about. But yeah, acquisition of more objects based on this perverted concept of who you are, which is not who you are at all. So fasting, what's the verb I'm looking for? abstaining from action and all these things, then the conditioned soul is left to think, well, what am I going to do? Really? Just sit in the tall grass like a snake? And Prabhupada makes the not Prabhupada, because yes, Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita 4:18, which is connected with this verse. Let's look at it. Bhagavad Gita. This is the favorite verse of Gurukulis, because it's, one who sees an action in action, an action in inaction. I'll say slowly. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So in the purport, Prabhupada kind of criticizes the impersonalist who's like, well, then I won't act, I won't do anything at all, because karmic entanglement. All I want to do is get disentangled and get over with this whole material mess. But no, obviously there is a way to act that is well, okay. What do I mean by that? Passive. To understand passive, well, you need to understand what's active, action, who the doer is. Plenty of verses in the Gita about who the doer is. And so, if you're identified with the material body and therefore the whole of material existence, then yeah, you might as well not act. You might as well desist from any action, because it's all foam. It's all the surface of foam. That's really what the material experience amounts to. Say a cappuccino, a decaf cappuccino. Material life is the thin layer of cocoa powder on the foam of what you're trying to drink, which is coffee and milk and lots of sugar. And spiritual life would be the coffee and milk. So obviously, if you don't know who you are, if you're in a total haze as to who you even are, how can you, if you're not clear on the I am, how can you work on the I do, I think, I say, I want? What do you want? You don't even know who you are. Want based on what? You know, going back to the point of artha pravritti, acquire what for the benefit of what? It's all going to end up in disappointment. So in that sense, this verse says, try not to acquire any more happiness and distress. Clearly, nobody's trying to acquire distress, but don't even focus on future ones. Well, let's say avoid distress. Don't focus on acquiring more sources of joy in the shape of a car, of a wife, of a husband, of a job. And at the same time, stop trying to avoid whatever, being fired, divorcing, or losing your house, or whatever the case. Because there's already so much coming to you from the karmic baggage that you have, to the extent that you identify with the body, because again, it's all limited beliefs. If you think, oh, I cannot do this because I was born a woman, because of my nationality, because of my race, because I'm missing a foot, because I cannot do, well, that's you limiting yourself. Says who? If you're truly convinced that your consciousness, like I always say, the potential of consciousness is infinite. You just need to realize it. Takes a while, but It doesn't have to. It all depends on how willing you are to let go of this crusty, hard shell of limiting beliefs in the form of your karma, the form of your body, which is again an expression of your karma. But you don't have to. At any point, you could get free, except we don't know how to, like the common person. They just don't know. It's. I was just reflecting on the fact that numbers, the Greeks, the Sumerians, etc., when they um, came up with numbers and mathematics, it was all to count the heads of sheep, cattle, soldiers, taxes, revenues, etc. So it was all about arithmetics and rational numbers because their experience is based on this material ego, this bodily based um, worldview that I was talking about. Similarly, in grammar, your first immediate not reaction, perception is of yourself. So in conjugation of a verb, you're like, I am. The very first thing the very first thing, what we're mostly concerned about is ourselves. And then maybe there is the rest of the world, but we see it in function of ourselves, how we can exploit it, how we can enjoy it, how we can destroy it, how we can avoid it. Me. So it goes in many languages. I am, and then you are. Finally, you acknowledge the presence of something other than you, and then that, he, she, it. Tat in Sanskrit is tat. Then, of course, the plural, we, you, they, same concept. But in Sanskrit, verbs are identified by the third person. Say, to go, gachati. Gachati does not mean to go, it means he goes. He, she, it goes. Gachati, because it kind of shows how the root turns into a conjugated verb. Once you know that it's gachati, then you can surmise that it's, I don't remember, gachami, gachasi, gachati, etc. But it's interesting to see how in Sanskrit grammar, it's all about the tat. It's all about the first you acknowledge that reality. The Vedas are all about tat, om, tat, sat, tat, famasi, and tat everywhere. Even in the Gita, there is like so many verbs, tat, tat, tat. That reality, that thing, you got to focus on that thing. Forget you. To the extent that you focus on that reality, you'd be better off. I'll try to explain this in the remaining 20 minutes. And so going back to mathematics, you have to go to Vedic mathematics to find the concept of nothing and of infinite. That's not something that comes by watching your sheep, your soldiers, counting the sacks of wheat. Who thinks of nothing? Who thinks of counting nothing? Who thinks of what did I say? Of the infinite. What? I mean, for us, obviously, we're like millennia after we've been exposed to the concept. But say a kid who doesn't go to school, would they develop into an adult that would ever think of nothingness and infinite? Well, leave it to Vedic mathematics, because again, it trickles down. It's a knowledge, a reality that trickles down. Well, trickles down or has us look up to that reality. And then you can apply it to mathematics, to grammar, to whatever. But it's really interesting to see how the verb starts with the third, doesn't really start. I mean, I think they conjugate I, you, they, but it's interesting to see that the verb, the third person is taken as a reference. I, you, they, I, you, he. And then infinite and zero. Zero is what nothing is, by the way. So talking about? Python is passive. That we've ascertained. So we were talking about the Gita. Action. Okay, so action in an action. Who does what? You don't even know who you are. How can you do something? To what? To whose benefit? How can you want something? You don't even know who you are, where you are, where you're going. So this exhortation to passiveness is precisely that. Stop moving around, stop trying to acquire, just sit there. And well, basically the message of these 4 verses is let go and let God. You know, the whole point of meditation, if we switch to Ashtanga yoga for a moment, it's very gradual. You don't just sit and meditate, although many people advocate that now. Can be done, but the yoga school and method says first yama niyama. You can eat that, you cannot eat that. You can do this, you cannot do that. For very practical reasons. How can you sit in meditation if you're full of gas? How can you sit in meditation if you're full of arthritis? So have a decent diet, have proper sleep, have proper habits, control your senses, kind of like shape up, get a grip. How's it go? Yama niyama, asana. Asana, again, stretch your body, make it comfortable so that you can sit and not move. Because every muscle, voluntary muscles, I mean, the heart, the lungs, you cannot control. Well, you can control the lungs to some extent. And you can see how in pranayama, breath retention is much more important than breathing, which is the whole point of passiveness as opposed to acting. Oh, I got to breathe, I got to acquire oxygen. We'll go there if I don't run out of time again. But so passiveness, breathing, geez, yoga. So asanas, make your body comfortable so you can sit and not move a muscle. And if you have an experience with meditation, after a while you're like, where are my fingers? I don't feel my arms anymore. Am I still in Jnana Mudra? Then you don't feel your whole body. Conversely, any movement that you do is implies electricity. It requires electricity from the brain to the muscles, and it's like white noise. It's an interference. It brings you down to the physical material physical reality. You want to, and yeah, I am that stupid that I'm like in meditation, and I'm like, and I'm still in Jnana Mudra, and I tap the tips of my finger, and then I go back to them. Because it's important that I know that I have a material body, which not at all. But such is the conditioning and the human nature, the nature of the mind. But if you're better than me, then you just let go of the physical experience, and you notice that you're still existing. You're thinking, and boy, are you thinking. I need to do laundry. Did I pay that bill? Why did she say that? How could whatever. And so you got to still your mind. So yama niyama asana, pratyahara, withdraw the senses from the sense objects. So any birds may be chirping, whatever. Like punctually on my bed, there are some ants, teeny tiny 1 millimeter ants that bite. Some are red, some are black. They all bite. The red ones, they don't bite you. They're urticating. They're covered in some urticating hairs on their abdomen. So even if they're dead, if you sit on them, they sting like a micro jellyfish. Like I said, it's intense to live here. But you're sitting in meditation and then trying to meditate, and you need to master pratyahara. Otherwise, you are like me. The ants bother you, the birds and everything, the door. And then you finally sit in meditation and you still the mind. You do concentration, first of all, on one thing, and then you meditate. I heard it described as concentration is well, when there were films made of celluloid, concentration is like focusing on a photogram, and meditation is when the photogram starts flowing and it becomes the movie. It moves on. But you move at this safe level that I was trying to talk about, where creativity is unleashed. You're much more close to your divine nature. I only recently saw the simile, the parallel, not the parallel, the, what would you call it? The relationship between creativity and creation. Because, it's very easy to say, oh, there's nothing new under the sun. All these artists, whatever they're creating, uh, it was created before, they just manifested it. Well, no. The ingredients of matter are always the same. But don't downplay the divine spark that you are. Not that is in you, that you are. We are divine. We are, that makes some people kind of tense up, whether they are from a, I don't know, Catholic or Western background, or even some Vaishnavas. Because one of my pet peeves is that there's the teaching of bhakti and then there's the preaching of bhakti. So they say things in such a way, oh, you're not God, you're a particle, but you're not God. Yeah, but we are divine. Because what do we matter? We are divine. And we're a spark of consciousness. And consciousness, again, this elusive substance, reality that we cannot quite put our finger on, is um, well, has a personhood. Like I always say, consciousness is equally as impersonal as personal at the same time. So better wrap your mind around that. It's just the way it is. But it can display this personhood. So it kind of bugs me when they say, oh, the Brahma Jyoti is just the effulgence of Krishna's body. Yeah, okay, that's one way of conceptualizing and philosophizing. But the Bhagavatam says clearly, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. At the same time, it's, again, what changes? What is the needle? Well, the consciousness of the observer. Keep in mind, this is philosophy. We are discussing the absolute reality, the absolute truth, but through the filter of words and human intellect, which, we don't all know the same words. We don't all understand the same words. We don't all have the same intellectual capacity. So we do our best. But if and when some, pearl of knowledge, drop of knowledge is given to us through scriptures, then that's what that is. It is as personal as it is impersonal at the same time. So, as units of consciousness, atoms of consciousness, we have individuality, we have personhood, we feel that I am unique, and you'd be right. But you're also part of God, one with God, and different at the same time, which is the core of our philosophy, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. And as I always specify, it's not that we are God. God is us. Consciousness is expressing itself in a fractal way. I don't want to say smaller, let's say smaller and smaller, or more and more nuanced ways. Even through the conditioned state, to experience it all. That's what consciousness does. Experience it. What? Experience being killed by a serial killer? Yes. Experience being born in a war zone and losing your parents. Yes, everything, every possible experience. Sweet, sorrow, what do you say, bitter. Because it's a game, it's all a leela from that point of view. Think of the video game. I always make the same examples. I'm sorry, but if you're a gamer, you'd be like, oh, they shot me, oh, they killed me, and then you get another life, like Pac-Man or whatever games are around now. Oh, I'm out of ammunition. No, no, you know, the mother is there cooking dinner and thinking, what is he talking about? He's just sitting at the computer. None of that is happening. So, and with the same feeling, and how would you say, you know, this gamer is really feeling that he got shot and whatever repercussions it has in that virtual reality, but he's enjoying it. It's the experience of the game. Next time around, he'll log right back in and play with other players in this virtual world. It's precisely what's going on with the soul and the material world. So it's hard for people to understand. Really, famine, war, disgrace of all sorts, so much sorrow, so much ugliness, yes, and so much beauty and so much joy and so much of everything. It's all the same, you know, good and bad, the duality of the world. We just need to see the world through God's eyes. So we are fractals of consciousness, and we are persons. So passiveness, yes, meditation. So that's what the exhortation of the Vedas is about. Not to be passive and do nothing, but do things from the right terrain, from the right worldview, and properly situated. So if you're in meditation, you realize you're not the body. At least for that 20 minutes, you don't feel your body anymore. You still your mind, and you're still existing. And so creativity comes about, and you're in touch with your divine side, because you become a creator of your little world. But like I said, it's all fractal. God is the creator, and we are the creator of our little tiny, minute, limited reality. Yes. And I remember a meme by my godbrother Gaurunarayan, who years ago, when memes were new, he was in the habit of creating a few devotional ones. And there was one with a funny face, like a girl with pigtails, I think, that was the character of many memes, with like big eyes. And the text said, I love chanting japa because I get so many great ideas. This is not the point of chanting japa, but that's precisely what happens. So many good ideas, or just ideas and realizations, just pop up as you chant japa. And chanting japa is probably the best expression of this passiveness that the Bhagavatam is advocating, because you sit there, you don't even pray to God. Yes, Prabhupada says, and many people say, that you need to cry like a baby for milk. You need to really petition God. But in actuality, you're not even offering yourself. Like, my Guru Maharaj always makes the point that in the Gayatri mantras, there is a submission. I offer myself. I meditate on this. There is no I in japa, in Mahamantra japa. It's all vocative. Hare, Krishna, Rama. Just, okay, yeah, Hare means, oh, Hari, or oh, Hara. So I guess it is a petition. But really, you're just repeating the name of God. A petition, to stretch it. It's an invocation. You're not really asking anything. You could feel like you're asking. There's nothing wrong with it. But you're really just repeating the names of God, and your consciousness takes that shape. And that's what the gopis do, right? At some point, they just totally lose. At some point, that's their natural mojo. They're just forgetful of their reality, of the consequence of their behavior. They don't even think, I want to be with Krishna. They just think, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. What gives him pleasure? Krishna. Just So there's this Leela where they just go mad. I think in separation after Krishna's left, right after Krishna's left. I don't remember exactly, but they just lose their mind. They're like, look at me, I'm Krishna on Kaliya, and they're just holding a vine. Look at me, I'm whatever, I'm whatever. Krishna in many, they're convinced they're Krishna. They don't think I am Krishna, they just think Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And so they get catapulted, well, nowhere, because they're already there. But it shows how our consciousness takes the shape of that reality. Like I said, with the example of the TV, we need to look at the same channel, the same Netflix shows that Krishna watches. That's what we're asked to do. That's the teaching all throughout. No matter which way you shape it, no matter what words you use. And so that is a very good expression, an example of this passiveness. Just sit there, forget yourself, forget your body, forget your needs. Don't even offer yourself to God. Don't even ask God for anything. You just repeat the name of God and let go and let God. That is pretty much the, oh, good. I guess it's a good way to conclude. I had a few things to say. But let me think. So yeah, I mean, and that's how we're told that we're gonna uh, um, experience divinity. Whether we experience that we are part and parcel of God, or we experience God from a Veda point of view, which is the sweeter one, kind of like, the cowherd boys all think that they're just the same as Krishna, and they are, and yet they perceive Krishna. So they're separate and one in feeling, in experience at the same time. Same teaching as always. So, what was I saying? So whether you realize your divine nature through in the very least, that you are, wow, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. You start feeling. Usually comes in waves. There's a book called Bhavataranga Rangini. Bhavataranga means wave. Taranga means wave. Waves of emotion. I was lucky enough to experience it only once, but yeah, I did feel like this. You're like, I cannot contain this. What's going on? You feel like a thimble trying to get not even the ocean, which is going to be the next guru, a wave trying to fill a thimble. Forget it. So pretty quickly, once you realize your divine nature, then you move on to the complex, to the totality of divinity, which is Krishna, which is condensed in Krishna, because Krishna is both omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and yet he decides to be the son of Yashoda, the lover of Radha, and the friend of Subal. But oh well, it's nothing. 4 minutes. Let's see. Maybe I should go random. Nothing I can say in an organic way. I was making a point about breathing. Yeah, passiveness. When I was learning how to drive, at some point I realized, whether it was through the manual or through the lessons, that, wait a minute, I'm learning how not to drive, when not to drive, when to slow down, when to stop. That's what I was like. I'm not learning how to drive here. Everybody can drive. Turn a key, press on the accelerator, and go against the first wall. Everybody knows how to drive. What you need to learn is when to stop, slow down before a curve, slow down when whatever somebody's passing you. Not slow down, but don't speed up. So much controlling, so much. What's the verb? Coercing, I think. I think I'm saying it right. And so that's what, in a way, what's meant by passiveness. If that's what you think acting is, then be passive. Don't act, and let your karma burn out. Of course, you got to cultivate spiritual knowledge. That's why I keep saying a saintly person, because a materialist would be lost. Be like, why even do it? What's the purpose of living? So breathing, it's really more about with holding your breath than breathing. Breathing in is all about like, I need oxygen to maintain my body, the whole acquiring mentality that is precisely what we're asked to do. And pranayama, when you're expert, it's all about not breathing with your lungs full, with your lungs empty, or breathing as little as possible. Because in the Vedas, there's this concept that at birth, a body is assigned a certain amount of breaths. So it's not heartbeats, it's not years or minutes, it's breath. So the yogi smartly thinks, well, then the slower I breathe, the longer I'll live, and I'll take advantage of this one birth. And but also because of the realizations that come with that. So stop breathing, breathe as little as possible. And so many teachings. I wanted to say more about breathing, but like 1 minute away. I remember in my little series of lectures on pranayama, I was saying that it's interesting that we're all about breathing in, like material life starts with the inhalation and ends with an exhalation, whereas the whole of material, the material expanse is an out breath of Mahavishnu. It's like discarded carbon dioxide. It's like the aftermath. He breathes in his own fullness and then breathes out, and material universes come out. And as he breathes out, we breathe in. Our material life starts with the breath in and corresponds with the breath out breath of Mahavishnu. Like the Gita says, what is, the banyan tree, upside down banyan tree, what's day for the spiritualist is night for the materialist, what's night for the spiritualist is day for the materialist, etc. So passiveness is when you meditate, you realize, you're tapping from the divine, but not by breathing in, but by, through meditation. That's when you're really connecting with, say, with God, with the divine. Because when you breathe in, his exhalation, kind of like in the Bible, right? The Bible says that God breathed life into Adam, who was made of dirt until that point. Well, it could be seen in so many ways, but anyway, kind of lost my train of thought. So we breathe in what is the aftermath, the passive expression of God's life. Because breathing out is passive. When you breathe, the exertion is done on the diaphragm to expand, contract, and suck in air. Breathing, you just stop contracting, and that's why when you die, you breathe your last, because basically the life leaves your body, and then naturally all the muscles let go, and you breathe out. So that's what God does, and for us, it's like the beginning of what we think is life. Whereas through meditation, we really tap from the real current of what is really life and living and worth cultivating. So anyway, that's the best I could do, ad-libbing for 1 hour because of the reasons I told you. And it's like improv comedy, but I did my best. And next time we'll be talking about the ocean, and we'll see how the ocean is our guru. Let's see. Let me see if there are any questions. comments are not supported on private videos. Whoops. Have I done the right? Who am I logged in as? Weird. Okay, well, there are no comments. Oh, I should have put it on public. What a shame. Oh well. And there are no comments, I don't think, on Zoom. So I'm going to end here, thanking whoever participated or will participate and take part in this disquisition. And thanking you for your patience and for this chance to engage in these thoughts. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.